Hello, in this tutorial we are going to learn about critical path method. This is very important topic. This is based in project management, and critical path method basically control the project duration. Okay. Now before getting into the topic, it is very important to know about some of the terms like what is an activity, what is duration, what is predecessor, and what is successor. Now here I have listed some of the activities like we have excavation activity, we have PCC, RCC, column next. So these all are activities. Okay. So in real case, every activity needs some time to finish. Okay. So amount of time that an activity required to finish is called as duration. So hope you understand what is an activity, what is duration. Now let's look about the predecessor and the successor. In real case, some activities needs to wait until other to finish. So the relationship between the activities is called as predecessor and the successor. Here in PCC activity, predecessor activity of PCC is excavation and the successor activity of excavation is PCC. It's mean that PCC need to wait until excavation to finish. So this is the predecessor activity of PCC. Now the predecessor activity of RCC is PCC. I have defined all of the predecessor over here and the successor as well. Okay. Now during planning phase, experienced planners used to define early start, late start, early finish, late finish, float, and the duration of each activity. Now let's look about what is an early start, early finish, late finish, float, and the duration. Here I have just explained. Early start is the earliest time that an activity can start, earliest possible time. Likewise, late start is the late possible time that an activity can start, and early finish is the earliest time that an activity can finish. Late finish is the late time that an activity can finish. Now, duration I have already explained, and the float is the amount of time that an activity duration slip without causing the project to delete. Okay, so hope you understand early start, late start, early finish, late finish, float, and the duration. Now next I have arranged some of the activities over here. You can see we have just arranged some of the activities like activity A, B, C, D, okay, over here, and I have give them a relationship, predecessor and the successor as well. You can see for activity C the predecessor activity is A, for D and E it is B, for activity F it is C and D, for G activity it is E, for H activity it is F and G. Okay, so these all are the predecessor activities. Now next thing here will be we have to just give duration to each activity, and the duration of activity A is 4 day, and for B it is 9, 5. Likewise you can see for H it is 5 days. Okay, you can see this duration here in this table as well. Now next I'll just define the early start and the late start, early finish and the late finish of each activity. Let's suppose both of these activities has no predecessor, and these are just starting on the same date. Okay, so it could be day one. Okay, so early start of activity A is day one, and the early start of activity A is B is, sorry, day one. Okay, now what will be the early finish of activity A? Early finish will be definitely here the duration is 4 days, so the early finish will be day 4. Okay, or you can use this equation to find out early finish. Early start plus duration minus 1 will just give you the early finish of activity. Okay, now for early finish of activity B it is what, day 9. Now we are going to the next level. We have to just define early start of activity C. So what will be the early start? This activity is just finishing on day 4. So early start of activity C will be day 5. Okay, or you can use this equation. Early finish plus 1 will just give you early start of next activity. Now early start of D and E will be what? 9 plus 1 will make 10, 10 over here as well. Okay, now we have to just define the early finish of all of these activities. Same equation, early start plus duration and minus 1 will just give you the early finish of the activity. You can see over here early finish. Okay, now we are moving to the next level. Here you can see for F activity we have two predecessor activities. So which value will take from here, 9 or 12? So definitely after finishing of this activity we can start this activity, so we'll take the greater value. Okay, you have to take the greater value if a activity has more than two predecessor. Okay, now early start of this activity will be 12 plus 1 will make 13. Okay, now early start of activity G will be 17, and early finish of both of these activities is 27 and 25. Now what will be the early start of activity H? Definitely will take the greater value. It is 27 plus 1 will make 28, and early finish will definitely 32. So the process that we did over here, in which we have defined early start and early finish of activity, is called as forward pass. Okay. Now we have to just define late start and the late finish of each activity. Let's suppose our client want to just finish this project on day 32. So what will be the late finish of this activity? Definitely it will be day 32. Now we have to do everything in reverse order. Okay, to find out the late start, what we have to do over here is we have to just deduct duration from late finish. Okay, and add one. Remember, in forward pass, what we did was in early start we add duration. Here we'll just subtract duration, we deduct one. Here we'll just add one to define the late start. So late start will be 32 minus duration plus 1 will just give us the late start. So it is what, 28. Now next we have to just define late finish of both of these activities. Remember, in forward pass we add one in early finish to define early start. Here what we'll do, we'll just deduct one from the late start to define the late finish of both of these activities. It is 28 minus 1 just give us 27. Okay, now we have to just define late start of both of these activities. So it will be what, we'll just use this equation, late finish, okay, minus duration plus 1 will just give us late start here as well. Now we are going to the next level. Here we have to just define the late finish of all of these activities. So definitely it will be 13 minus 1 will make 12, 12 here, 19 minus 1 will make here 18. Now we have to just define the late start. So it is 8 here, 10 here, and 12 here. Now next we are going to define the late finish of activity B and A, and here you can see for activity B we have two successor activities. Okay, it is D and E. So which value we will take from here? Remember, in forward pass we take greater value, we add one, and here in this case we'll just take a lesser value and we'll just deduct one or subtract one. So it is 9. Okay, we'll take this value 9, and here in this case it will be 7. Okay, now for the late start it is a 1. 9 minus 9 plus 1 will just give us 1, and here it is 4. Okay, so the process that we did over here is called as backward pass, in which we have just defined late start and the late finish of each activity. Now take a closer look on activity A. We have early start of this activity as day 1 and the late start of this activity as day 4. So it's mean that we can start this activity from in between day 1 and day 4. It won't affect on project whole duration. Now the difference between early start and the late start and the early finish and the late finish is called as float. Now the activity A has 3 days float. Now similarly you can see some activities has zero float. You can see over here we have zero float at B activity, D, F and H. So it's mean that we cannot delay these activities. If we'll delay these activities, it will affect on whole project duration. Okay, and these activities are called as critical activities and the path is called as critical path. Now let's add the duration of these activities and we'll see the effect over here. 9 plus 3 plus 15 plus 5 will make 32, and the whole project duration is 32. Okay, so this is how these critical activities affects on project whole duration. Hope you understand what is critical path method, how we can just define early start, late start, late finish of each activities or float of each activities, and how we can define the critical activities. Now let's open the software and we'll just do the same example in software. Now I have OpenMS project, and the first thing that I will do over here is I'll just add here activity name. So we have activity A, then we have B, then we have C up till H. Okay, then D, E, F, G and H. Okay, so after entering the name, the next step will be we need to just give duration to these activities. So for activity A we have total of 4-day duration. Okay, so I'll just enter duration over here, then 9 days, then 5 days, 3, 7, 15, 9 and 5. Okay, 15, 9 and 5 days. Okay, so we have just add activity names and the duration as well. Now the next step will be we need to just give the relationship to these activities, or you can say it as predecessor and successor to these activities. Okay, so in this regard, I'll just go here, I'll select the activity C. Okay, and for activity C, we know the predecessor is A activity. Now in our one of next tutorial, I'll just explain how we can give relationship to activities in very detail. For now, I only want to just check how programs calculate critical activities fastly. Okay, so for activity C, it is activity A. So I'll just double click on this one. Okay, then I'll go here in predecessor tab. Then I'll go here, and for C it is what, A activity. So I'll just select this one. Okay, then I'll press OK from here. Now you can see here, okay, the link between these two activities. Now we'll just go for activity D. For activity D, it is B activity as a predecessor. Okay, so I'll just double click on D, and then I'll select this one, and this is B. Okay, so I'll select this one. Okay, then for activity E, it is again B. Okay, so double click over here. You can just check in the table as well. So for activity E, it is B. So I'll select B as a predecessor. Okay, then I'll press OK again. Now you can see the graphical representation over here as well. Now next for F activity, it is C and D. Okay, so double click over here, and we have two predecessors, C and we have D. Okay, so I'll select both of these, and I'll press OK from here. Now next to it, we have just G activity, and for G it is E. Okay, as a predecessor. So for G it is E. I have already explained what is predecessor and the successor. This is very important to understand this concept. Okay, and next we have H activity. For H activity, it is F and G. Okay, so double click over here, and we have F activity, and we have G activity as a predecessor for this H activity. Okay, I'll select both of these, and I'll press OK from here. Now we have linked all of these activities, you can see over here. Okay, and let me just zoom out it a little bit. Okay, and you can see right now we do not have here any critical activities. Okay, critical activities will be shown here as a red activities. So in this regard, I'll just right click over here, okay, in chart. Then I'll just simply go here, show or hide bar style. Okay, and then I'll go with critical task option. I'll click over here, and you can see here the programs shows here the critical activities in the reds. Okay, and we have critical activity as B activity, then we have D activity as critical, then we have F activity as critical, and we have last activity as H activity. Okay, as per our example, you can see over here how fast programs calculate critical activities. Okay, so hope you really understand this session. We'll see you in the next.